Welcome to our April podcast. We are excited that you are here. We're going to give you an opportunity at the end of this podcast to make some comments. We're going to suggest something about crappie fishing that I know it's going to, some of you really going to like it or some of you really going to hate it. We want to know if you like it, if you hate it. Before we get started, we have today two fine guides from Lake Oconee. They are also captains. Mr. Blake Jones is here with us. Hello there, Blake. Hello. Nice to see you. And an old standby who's back fresh from Florida. Y'all have a good time down there.
Yes.
Catching grouper and awesome. Snapper, Kevin Alexander. We're all guides on Oconee, and this is the month of April. Everything is going off really good right now. We're going to talk really briefly about striper fishing because you don't have to, there's not a whole lot of detail when it comes to this. At this moment right now, and today is April 2nd, they are biting on bass minnows, on the small hooks that we've showed you in past podcasts. Do we have any of them laying on the table? Them old Gamakatsu? Yeah, let me see that right there. That's it right there. Gamakatsu number 2s. This is the size hooks that we use. Yeah, I know that they're really small. We attach them to, when I do a flat line, to a 10-pound leader. What kind of leader you got there, Blake?
That's a 15.
15. Blake catches a lot of bigger fish, I guess, so he uses this. Well, I use Seagar, 10-pound. I use 12 on my down lines, and so really kind of no mystery. You take them, put them out behind the boat, float them around, and you will, as these fish start coming in, and they're doing it right now. You can catch a lot of fish on just bass minnows. That's going to change though, and it will soon this month the shad spawn will start. When the shad spawn starts, they will not eat another bass minnow. I mean, it's kind of been how it has been forever and ever. To keep shad, you got to have a tank and a water concoction, and tell everybody what you do in your tank and how many gallons it is and everything.
So my tank on my boat is 30 gallons, and I use a product called Aquavitra. That's who makes it. It's called Alpha. It's basically an additive you put in the water that you can buy at the aquarium store, and it bonds to the chlorine and the nitrates and the ammonia, and it keeps the shad from being able to absorb it. And thus, all they can absorb out of the water is the oxygen. So I have a circulator with a Danco Venturi, and I can keep 6-7 dozen good-sized shad all day. I've even kept them 2 or 3 days at home. So it's really a good way to keep them.
And we throw our nets after the shad spawn starts. You've become a master with a barracuda, right?
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, did y'all throw the net when you were down in Florida?
We used cigar minnows.
Y'all went down.
Frozen cigar minnows.
Lick Creek Bridge is always a great place to throw your net. Catch a lot of shad. As a matter of fact, you will see them dimpling in the morning just as the sun comes up. Sugar Creek Bridge is another good place. But I do tell you, there's probably somebody watching this that you think, yeah, I got a really big live well, and I think I can just throw the net and catch a lot of shad. And they'll live in my tank. They won't. I mean, you gotta.
Been there, done that.
Yeah.
It don't work.
I tell you something.
Use the rock salt too. That's another key I forgot to mention.
I use a cup of rock salt for every 10 gallons of water, I believe it is. My bait tank is almost a tick over 40. So 4 cups of rock salt, a splash of that Aquavitro, and I have a filtration system on my Ranger boat. Pulls out all the shad scales, and they'll live all day. But this is the honest truth. One time I was at the 44 bridge, and I heard that there's a lot of stripers down at the dam. We was just out messing around, and I didn't have, and actually I don't use lake water, I use well water. And I filled my tank up with the lake water, and I thought, one throw of the net, they were pulling, I had all the shad I needed, and I thought, I can make a run from 44 Bridge to the dam before these baits start dying and get them in the water. What does it take? 15 minutes in my boat probably. When I got to the dam, they were all belly up. Every shad in that tank was dead. I do not understand why that happens, but it does. So that's the stripers. Small hooks, 7-8 foot leaders, 10-pound fluorocarbon. You can go up to 15-pound. We use the Red Sea Garb. You can keep using the bass minnows, you know, until the shad spawn starts, and then they'll kind of be off of it. So get all your bass minnows at Sugar Creek Marina. As a matter of fact, we get all of this stuff from Sugar Creek, and we tell you this every time when we do this podcast, how good these guys are at it. William and Mike are just, they are a God's friend, and we really appreciate it. So we're going to talk about something really interesting today. We all kind of feel that the crappie population on our lake, on Oconee, has, over the past few years, really suffered. And I'm going to let these guys kind of tell you why they think it has happened, and then we're going to oppose an idea. So I'm going to start off with you, Kevin.
Well, I've noticed more of a decline in the fish quality more so than population. 5 years ago, I could go out there and catch a limit of 1.5 pound fish easy during the spring. Now I'm catching fish that are 11, 12 inches, and I'm seeing 30 boats in one area on Lake Creek, and people are throwing fish that big in the live well.
Yeah.
And they just don't have a chance to grow. And you know, a 2-pound crappie is what, 6, 7, 8 years old?
We're going to find out soon, but
Yeah.
DNR is about to do some testing.
So,
but yeah, maybe.
You know, I just think that maybe we need some type of length restriction on our crappie because we have a good fishery here, but you know, we got to manage it too to have quality fish.
I'm thinking that when I've been crappie fishing a long time and just about guiding as long as I've been doing it, and I've noticed that the bigger fish are not. I mean, I've caught some 2 pounds this year, but it seemed like years ago that you would always catch at least 1 2-pounder in the group. Now I push, Kevin pulls, Blake pulls, and I always kind of say, well, you know, and I think you do. You catch bigger fish when you do that. But the last 2 years has really it's been different. There probably is many fish, but I just don't see the quality. And I think part of it has to do with social media. And you know, some guys kind of blame me for this, for you know, doing podcasts and video stuff and making movies and everything about it. But the truth is, we've had, I asked William the other day at Sugar Creek Marina, I said, have you ever seen this many crappie fishermen in your life? And he's like, never. I've been here 25 years, never seen this many guys. There are days you can go over this year that we went over Sugar Creek Marina. I mean, how many boats was out there? 50 70. Mm-hmm. And William at Marina, him and Mike just standing there shaking their heads. They just can't believe it. And I was with our local DNR just one day this year. And if this hurts your feelings, I apologize for it. Don't mean to do that, but it is the truth. I'd been out on a day of pushing. We'd caught some big fish, and the DNR was there checking. And so I said, hey, you mind if I hang out and just see what you're looking at? And he goes, no, man, help yourself. And so when the boats were coming out, the officer would say, what do you got? And they said, we have a limit. And he'd open a cooler, live well, what it was, and I'm not kidding you, there were fish in there that you could hide under an iPhone. They were so small. But the idea was they got a limit. That's what...
They like to brag about that limit.
On Facebook.
Today.
Yeah, we caught our limit. And that's like... And, you know, I guess we've all done it, but I think it's starting to affect our fishery really bad. I mean, and there were fish in there, and I looked at 4 different boats, and on all 4 of them, there were fish in there that it just made me sick to my stomach. I'd have never kept that many. I mean, not that many, but that small of fish. So we've all been kind of putting our heads together and thinking about what we should do. And as I've been on the lake, and you may be one of the people that I've asked, I've pulled up to crappie fishermen and have said, would you oppose a length restriction? And you know, everybody I've talked to said that they would not. They think that we need at least a minimum of 10 inches.
I know people tell me 12.
Yeah. Well, you know, at Grenada, it's 12, right?
And look at the fish that lake puts out.
Yeah, 3 pounds. What is it at Talquin? That's another big.
It's a 10.
So is it honest to say that on every major crappie fishing lake, if you pull up the top 10 crappie fishing lakes in America, would it be honest to say that the majority, above majority of those lakes all have length restrictions?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe so. And you know, us as sportsmen, we've got to be conservationists too. I mean, there's people out there that probably come down here 3 or 4 days a week and keep a limit, and they don't need them. They're not going to eat all of them. The fish ruin in the freezer. The freezer burn before they eat them all. And so keep what you need and save some for future generations. That's my biggest thing. I mean, you know, I'd much rather a 8-year-old kid be able to go out there and catch a lot of fish than me. So.
Well, we've talked to our local biologist about this, and they are going to do some testing this spring just to see what the growth rate is on all of these fish, and to see if imposing a limit would help. But I do think in part that you know, I'm not a biologist, and I think a lot of times all of us in our heads, we think that, you know, it's kind of like if you can throw a spinnerbait, you really know what's best for the bass. If you can catch a crappie, you really know what's best for the crappie, and that's not the case at all. These guys, you know, spend a lifetime in education learning about these things. So we're going to really pursue this and just see what it would be, what our options would be. I personally think, because of the amount of shad that we have on this lake, and we have so many shad, we have such a good population, and I have caught a couple 3-pounders in my life while I've been here fishing, and I've caught a ton over 2 pounds, and in my head I'm kind of thinking, well, by me keeping those fish, that's probably hurt the population. But as I have looked into this, it seems like it's the very opposite. If you start keeping all the small ones, the little tiny ones I'm talking about, that you could literally hide in your hand, that does more against growing bigger fish. I personally believe, and this may be stretching a little bit, but with all the structure we have 1,800 acres of submerged timber in this lake, and just tons of shad. I think we could grow, if the length restriction and maybe even the number restriction, if that's part of it, I think we could grow Grenada crappie. What's the lake record here?
3 pounds 12 ounces.
312. That's right. So, what we'd like for you to do is to comment on our Facebook. Tell us what do you think about it. Tell us if you agree with it. Tell us if you disagree with it. But we want to be on the forefront of this, and we'd love to see a better, a bigger, healthier crappie population. And so, just so you know, if you're for it, let us know. I do want to say that the DNR has no official word on this. They have not said anything officially that any of this is going to happen. This is just something that us Oconee Captains we've been thinking a lot about, and just may want to see if we can even help in the process of testing and everything like that. But we have seen a decline in the bigger fish, and I think it has to do with just how how these fish are just getting pounded so much. It was so funny, like, and I've done this. I've put guys holding up fish when, and you probably don't know this, but we all kind of agreed that after, you know, we would book our trips this year when we would get booked up, Oconee Captains, when we booked all of our crappie fishing trips, that we would stop posting those fish on social media. Because we think it kind of, I know there's people that are like pulling up the pictures and are seeing like what tree were they at and what part of the lake they were in. And what's true about that is that we all got an outlaw. Every one of us have an outlaw in our circle. Yep. And we will tell one person, and I saw it happen at Town Creek. I found the fish in there last year. I was the only one up there. I was up there for 4 days and just wore them out. And I told a couple of people, and they told a couple of outlaws, and I probably told an outlaw too. And I had like 3 days off, and I rolled in there, and there were 20 boats in there, and I was out of my mind. So we network as crappie fishing better than anyone else, I believe. But I think we're going to have to really up our game to protect this really good fishery that we've gotten. And so you'll be hearing more about that. On the reply section here, just go down there and click on it and tell us what you think about it. Take all the time and even email us even if you want to, and let us know what you think about it. So the stripers are on, the crappie's on, and we are right in the middle of our 5th annual fishing derby. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you to William and Mike at Sugar Creek that have taken the load on for weighing in all of these fish this year. Man, they have took a weight off of my shoulders. It seems to me like this is like one of the busiest seasons that I've had in guiding. I know y'all have been busy. You've had a lot of trips. And I don't know if it's the economy or what, but we have just been running night and day. And William and Mike have just kind of stepped up and do all the weigh-ins, so we appreciate that. The next few weeks are some really good prizes for all you guys that are in. Costa sunglasses that are given to us by Sugar Creek Marina for the crappie division and the striper division. You win this week. You get to go in there and just pick out whatever pair you want. They're really nice. And then the next week is Pin Slammer fishing reels. And that's when we're all really going to be out there trying with our A game on. And then the next week, our Van Stahl spinning reels, and they may have to call the riot police out because, I mean, we're going to be beating the water. If you know what a Van Stahl is, you know what I'm talking about. One for crappie division, one for the striper division. And then the final week is going to be Hummingbird. I think it's going to be a Helix 5 or 7, not real sure. Still trying to work out all the great details on that. But we're excited about everything that's going on. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Thank you for being a part of it. And go and check all these guys out. Check their websites out. You'll see them on the screen there. Give them a call. Are you booked up pretty good? Really? You got any availability?
Not this week.
Yeah, next week, this month?
I've got a couple days open next week.
Man, that is great. You can just hook me up for being such a good help. How about you? You booked up?
I have some openings. If you're interested in definitely doing some striper fishing, look me up, atgcharters.com.
Are you kind of done crappie fishing now?
I think for the most part, I'm hanging up the crappie rods.
No, man,
I know you dieharders won't quite give it up yet.
All year.
I'm just kind of a fair weather crappie guy. When they're really good, I just kind of tag along with these fellas. And striper's really my passion, always has been. So
yeah,
if I catch a strap, I'd rather do that.
Yeah, we're doing this podcast. It was cold this morning, and I'm just thinking still that there's still something. Norris caught one yesterday that weighed. Well, he called me. He said he's leading this week too. I don't know if y'all know that, but he's leading this week in the crappie division. Norris said, I didn't weigh this fish. It's flat, but it's the longest crappie I ever caught in my life, and it weighed 1 pound 13 ounces, and it was a male. You believe that? Yeah. So thanks again for watching us. Please comment on this, on what we've talked about today. If you like it, tell us. If you don't, tell us again. And we will see y'all next month, in the month of May. For Kevin and Blake, I'm Captain Doug. Have a great day.